Hello, Internet friends. I believe a Russian victory in the Ukraine will dramatically speed up the collapse of the United States empire. I also think that is a good thing. When you hear an American citizen say that the collapse of the United States empire would be a good thing, your first impulse may be to brand them a traitor. So allow me to explain. First, we have to define what the United States empire is. The United States empire is a confederation of the international bankers, the Rothschild Zionist / Israel lobby. And when I say Rothschild Zionist, I'm not referring to righteous Jews or innocent little Jews. I'm referring to a criminal syndicate. The United States empire also consists of the military-industrial complex, the Davos billionaire oligarchy, the multinational corporations, the crooked political class, the deep states, and other nefarious entities. So if you believe the aforementioned entities make up the ruling structure of the United States empire or the United States Anglo-Zionist empire, then by the power of deductive reasoning, you have to oppose the United States empire. The most important reason that I personally oppose the United States empire is that I think the US empire is the greatest block to humanity transitioning into a Star Trek Kardashev Type 2 civilization. I think that block has to be removed before we evolve as a species. Why do I think a Russian victory in the Ukraine will rapidly accelerate the decline of the US empire and speed up its collapse? Well, first, perception is everything when you're talking about global power. And if the US were to lose this proxy war, because it is a proxy war, America would look really, really weak. Think about it. America spent 20 years in Afghanistan and dramatically lost. The Taliban unequivocally defeated the United States and its NATO allies. This was a much smaller force with much less weaponry, much less technology, and they prevailed. So, to get its prestige back, NATO thought they would poke the bear, the Russian bear, in Ukraine, try and incorporate Ukraine into NATO, which Russia has stated for years is a red line. The United States neocons purposely did that to provoke Russia. They knew this was going to happen because they wanted to drag Russia into this proxy war. They wanted to turn Ukraine into the Soviet-Afghan war, make Ukraine Russia's Afghanistan. And if Russia wins, every country is watching. But first off, this war is causing Europe's destruction. All these countries that are NATO members in Europe, they're going to have to pony up and put money into the NATO collection hat. So all their, socialized medicine, pension money, all that is going to have to go to NATO to buy weaponry from the military-industrial complex, and people's standards of living in Europe are going to dramatically decline. The European Union and the Scandinavian countries are going to go from first world entities to second or third world entities. Also, Russia is cutting off the gas supply to Europe. Next winter, Europe is going to freeze. It's going to be a nightmare. Furthermore, Europe uses Russian fertilizer and all kinds of other things besides energy that Russia imports. It's going to have a terribly bad effect on European industry, and it's going to create a severe economic downturn in Europe. And so if Russia wins this proxy war, Europeans are going to say, well, what do we just dramatically lowered our standard of living. We're broke, we're freezing, we're hungry. Why do we do this? And what you're going to see is the rise of anti-NATO, anti-US, populist political parties in Europe. And there is going to be a movement to disconnect from the US Anglo-Zionist empire. Furthermore, other continents and countries are going to look at this. All the countries in South America, Central America, Africa, Asia, they're going to perceive the empire as weak, and they have been exploited economically through the International Monetary Fund, through the World Bank, all the organs of the Rothschild, Rockefeller, bank cartels that control the United States. They've been abused. They've had their countries destroyed: Libya, Iraq, Syria. There's a lot of resentment against the United States empire, and if they perceive weakness, many of these countries, these former vassal states, are going to be emboldened to rebel. Because remember, people are attracted to the strong horse. And who's going to be the strong horse? It's going to be the China-Russia alliance. Include Iran in there. The BRICS countries, their bonds will grow stronger. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Also, countries are going to be drawn towards joining the China's Belt and Road Initiative, the Russian economic cooperatives, and what you're going to see is a Eurasian economic powerhouse, which is going to further weaken the United States. Because think about it, what does the United States really produce? It produces weapon systems, and Twitter, and Facebook, and Instagram. We also manipulate currency. We move money around. Banking fees, that's what makes up a large percentage of our GDP. Banking, usury, banking, swindling, banking, money speculation, currency speculation. Of course, the only people who see the profits of this are Wall Street, not Main Street. And so since all the US industries were outsourced to China, the manufacturing base, once America gets cut out of the loop, it's going down quickly because it's not self-sufficient any longer. And that leads me to my next point, the SWIFT system. That SWIFT is the digital or electronic money system that the United States controls, the central bank, really the bank cartels. And that's how money is transferred all over the world electronically. And this system is based on the United States petrodollar. And what happened after the Ukraine crisis started is the United States Federal Reserve Bank, the central bank, they confiscated Russia's money, $300 billion. They've also, the Bank of England also confiscated Venezuela's gold, and they've confiscated Afghanistan's money, they've confiscated Iran's money. And countries are starting to get nervous. They're saying, wait a minute, the US gets mad at us, they could shut us down economically at any point. But after the confiscation of Russian financial assets, this went into high gear. And so if they started developing alternate systems to SWIFT, China, Russia, transferring money through other, circuits. And if other countries follow suit and they start to do deals outside the SWIFT system and trade and all that sort of thing, that means people are going to stop using the petrodollar. They'll use their own national currency. And if that happens, if the US petrodollar stops becoming the global currency, that will set up a domino effect which will collapse the United States economy completely. The US will just go broke overnight. And so what happens to all those 1,000 or so US military bases around the world? They close. They don't have the money to sustain them. All those military contractors that do the laundry and provide the food services, can't pay them, can't pay the soldiers' salaries, everything. You can't pay the Blackwater/Academy mercenaries. You can't fuel the jets, the helicopters. It all shuts down, and America starts to contract towards its own national borders, which I think is a good thing. We should not be the policemen of the world for the banking cartels and the multinational corporations. Some other effects of that, maybe you would see a probable civil war in the United States, because what's really holding all of us together? What is the common link between all Americans besides smartphones? Nothing. We're a bunch of different tribal groups. And just like you saw in Yugoslavia, when that country collapsed, you started seeing all these groups going at each other. And I think you'll see something similar in the United States. And then what you might have is what we see in Iraq now, like a confederation of separate countries, city-states, whatever. Maybe what I think would be good would be to go back to something like the 13 colonies where you had autonomous states, but maybe with a common defense pact. The biggest problem that I see is a dying empire is extremely dangerous. They start doing reckless things, getting into more and more conflicts to prop up their prestige. And, they may do something really crazy. Now, I don't think they'll start a nuclear war, at least yet, because remember, if a nuclear war starts, the global elites still have to live on this planet. They do not want to live on a radioactive planet. The only way I could see the global elites starting a nuclear war is if they completely lose, where they're in a situation where they're going to be dragged into some kind of international criminal court, some kind of Nuremberg 2.0. They may face, execution or severe penalties. And they may say, well, if we rather blow up the planet than lose power. And, then you might see something like that. And so what are you going to do? Until next time.